Hey guys, in today's video we're going to talk about the equipment I use when I play over-the-board chess. And let's start with the most important part, the carrying case. So this is a carrying case that holds the chessboard, the pieces, the clock, but also gives some additional room because it's large enough that you could put your notation book in here and a few other items. I don't recommend the ones that are sold on Amazon that are called the Archer bags. I think Wholesale Chess also sells them. Those are real thin and they can only fit the board and pieces, but then you're going to need to carry a backpack or something else to bring the rest of your belongings, like the clock, notation book, pens, pencils. So I do recommend a bag about this size. And for all of these products that I mentioned, you can either look on wholesalechess.com or on Amazon. I'll tell you the names of the products and you can easily look them up. All right, so let's see what's inside the bag. So the first thing you're going to want is a notation book. I personally like these types where they're nice and thin. They have multiple pages inside. You can easily just write down your moves and they don't take up a ton of space. You will also see some people use the hardcover books, and I think those are good quality and they look nice if you have a bookcase full of hardcover books over the years. What I don't like about the hardcover books is oftentimes you'll see players will write down their moves, and then in between moves they have to actually set their pen or pencil down and they close the book on the pen or pencil. So it's kind of an additional hassle to keep opening and closing your book up, whereas with these kind of score books, you just open it to the page, keep your pen out like this, really easy to notate the moves. I should note though, some tournaments they will provide score sheets that have a carbon copy. That's a back copy where when you press down on the notation sheet, it actually creates a copy and then you turn in that copy to the tournament directors. So if your tournament has carbon copies and they want you to use those, you won't be able to use your scorebook and you might have to add it to your scorebook later. So this is what I recommend. These pretty inexpensive scorebooks where they're spiral bound at the top. Next up, and this is an important one, pens and pencils. You do not want to have a pen go dry on you while you're playing or a pencil tip break, so always bring some spares. I typically have 3 to 5 pens or pencils stored in my bag. The next thing we'll talk about is the chess board. For a while now, I've been really enjoying mousepad boards. This is a green and white mousepad board, and it's just like you would expect. It feels exactly like a typical computer mousepad. What's nice about mousepad boards is you can scrunch it up, you can roll it up, and it always lays flat. It always comes back to shape, laying completely flat. What I just purchased recently is a thin mousepad board, and I'm excited to use this. I'll be using it this weekend. And this has a print on it. So with the new thin mousepad boards, you can get a bunch of different prints, and this one looks like a wood grain board. It's not perfect. It's got some color variations, but I like it. It just looks a little bit classier, I think, than the green and white. It makes it feel a bit more like a wood board. And you can see on the screen here, nice big squares. Pieces will fit great. There's a couple other types of boards you could consider. The original type of tournament set was a vinyl board. And the pros of the vinyl boards is they're very smooth. So you can take a piece on a vinyl board and easily slide it across just like a wood board. The downside to vinyl boards is when you roll them up tight, they tend to kind of have some crease in them. And when you unroll them, if you have it rolled the wrong way, the edges will actually roll up like this. And even if you roll it the other way, the edges will kind of want to pop up like a little mound on the ends. So that's the downside of the vinyl boards, and that's when people started experimenting with other materials for their chess boards. The next board that kind of became popular outside of the vinyl boards was silicone chess boards. Those lay completely flat, but they are a little bit sticky, so you can't slide the pieces as well. And also, one thing that I don't like about the silicone boards, especially if you have the ones with the black and white squares, they kind of attract dust and hairs and things, so it's a bit distracting when you're looking at the board when you can see all that kind of gunk that's stuck on the board. So mouse pad board, that's my recommendation. I don't have a full review on these thin mouse pad boards yet. I think there might be a chance that maybe if you had it kind of creased, that the creases wouldn't come out as well as the thicker mouse pad boards. But I really like the look of this wood grain one. So then the next thing, in these pouches on the side, you have the pieces. And there's a couple different types of sets you can go with. Traditionally, you'll find that people use the plastic pieces, and those are perfectly good pieces to use. If you do go with the plastic pieces, I recommend going with the ones that are weighted pieces, and typically online they're called triple weighted. The reason for that is if you have a weighted piece, they stay firmly on the square, and they have just a little bit nicer feel to them. They have a little bit of heft when you move them. If you have just the standard, the cheapest chess pieces you can buy with no weights in them, what can happen is as you move the pieces, they can easily tip over, especially if you get in a time scramble. And they just don't feel as nice once you're used to having some pieces that have a little bit of heft to them. The standard ones just feel a bit light. So I recommend weighted pieces if you want the plastic ones. One thing that I like to do though, just kind of one step nicer than the plastic pieces, I like to carry wood pieces with me. And I just think it gives a little bit nicer feel while playing chess. I study with the wood pieces at home. And I like to bring wood pieces to the chess tournament. And I've had quite a few players compliment me on my set just for bringing wood pieces. And the price of kind of the lower end wood pieces can range anywhere from $60 to $100, whereas the basic plastic pieces might only be like $12 US, and the weighted ones, I don't know, probably $20. So it does cost a little bit more for wood pieces, but I think it adds a nice touch. Next, we'll move on to the clock. I've tried a bunch of clocks over the years. I've used the USCF game timer. I've used the Chronos clocks. My favorite clock is currently the DGT North American. And if you don't play in the United States or Canada, even if you do, the other version of these clocks, I believe they're called the DGT 2000s, or there's also like the DGT XL. Any from this DGT brand, these are all really good clocks. The other line is approved by FIDE. This is approved by USCF. And the nice thing about these is they have a lot of preset options on the bottom. This is all of your main tournament time controls. And then if you have a manual setting for one of these, it'll remember that setting. And these are just super easy to use, and they're really common. And the price is right too. I think this clock is somewhere around $49, whereas like the Chronos clocks could cost you over $100. And even though those are sturdy, they're hard to find and they're a lot more difficult to set. So DGT North American, that's my recommendation. So that's what's in my chess bag. The only other thought that I wanted to mention when you're going to the over-the-board tournament is you want to have a place that you put your cell phone while you play. So a lot of tournaments are very strict with the cell phone policy. Typically, you turn your phone completely off and you put your phone in your chess bag, you zip the bag up completely, leave that near your board. So you want to have a spot that you're in, feel comfortable putting your cell phone while you play. And the last thing I'll mention is a lot of times at tournaments, the temperature of the playing hall can fluctuate a lot. Like I was at the Chicago Open recently and I really noticed this. There were hundreds of players in the room. I think the whole tournament had 1,000 players and maybe 600 were all in one room. At the start of the rounds, it would be very cold, right? So you'd want to have a sweatshirt or a coat available. Once the room filled with people, within the first half hour, it got extremely warm. So that's something to keep in mind. Have a few layers when you play. Be prepared for warmth or cold. So that's my chess bag review. That's what I bring to tournaments. Let me know in the comments, what sort of OTB questions do you have? I ran a poll and a lot of you guys said that you have not played OTB, but you're excited to try it for the first time, or you haven't played OTB and you're a bit nervous about it. So put your questions in the comments, anything OTB related, and I will make sure to answer them all. Thanks for watching.